Hello and welcome back to another episode of Best Bets. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary, joined as always by Newsday's NFL pick columnist Joe Manniello. Joe, how are you?
Doing good, Matt. How are you?
Doing good. Excited for conference championship weekend. Should be a couple good games. Nice week for you last week. 3-1 in the divisional round. Ugly week for me. 1-3 in the divisional round, but excited for this week.
It should be two good games.
Absolutely. So let's get started with the AFC. The Baltimore Ravens hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. The Baltimore Ravens at home are 3.5-point favorites. What's your play in this game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm taking the Chiefs here. I think 3.5 points is too many. I like them to win the game as well. I just feel like last week proved to me that you just can't bet against Patrick Mahomes in these games. I know it's kind of a simple way of looking at it, but also the Chiefs, it's just that championship pedigree. I mean, the defense this year has been underrated, and they just find ways to win these games. And the big reason why I liked the Chiefs so much last week was the whole idea that this is Mahomes' first road start. Buffalo was excited about having him in their building, and he just went there, and they had probably had their best game of the year. 8 plays of 20 yards or more. They held Buffalo to 0. They scored 27 points, and it would have been 34 if not for ex-New York Jet, McCall Hardman's fumble into the end zone. So they basically played their best offensive game of the year. They're heating up at the right time. You know, it's been a weird year for them, a down year for their standards, 11-6. Lost 5 games in 8-week stretch. Just offense was dropping passes, just not its usual great self. And the Ravens are going to be the toughest test they've had. We've seen it. Week after week, they dominated teams at home, beat the Lions by 30. The Seahawks by 30, I think, and they have the number one defense in points allowed. The Chiefs are number 2, so it's two great defenses. I mean, the Ravens to me have everything. They were one of my preseason teams I was really in on. One of my overs. Lamar Jackson was my MVP pick before the year. I mean, if they win the game, I will not be surprised. Obviously, they're the 1 seed. They've been great, but there's this almost this talk about how they're this like invincible team. And I just don't get it. Like. I just actually I was reading another guy's picks, and he mentioned the Rams team, and Stafford, I think, had over 400 yards passing. So I just, before you called, I just watched the Ravens-Rams highlight from that great game that went to overtime. And the Rams marched up and down the field. They probably should have won the game. They lost on a punt return in overtime at Baltimore, 37-31. So if you think Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid and Pacheco and all these guys can't go in there and beat Baltimore, I just think I haven't been paying attention. I think the Ravens are almost a little overrated. I mean, the numbers say they're not. The numbers say they're a great team. But Lamar Jackson, 2-3 career playoffs. Mahomes, 13-3. I think the experience is a lot. The Chiefs are looking to get to their 4th Super Bowl in 5 years. And also Mahomes as the underdog. He's only been the underdog 11 times in his career. They've won 8 of those games, and he's 9-1-1 against the spread as an underdog. So I just feel like you got to take the Chiefs here. So I like them to win the game. Close game, 26-23 Chiefs.
There you go. I love it. I'm with you on the Chiefs as well. I think Baltimore is a great team. And like you said, though, it almost feels like they're getting a little bit overrated in this spot against the Chiefs. I love that against the spread stat for Kansas City. The 9-1-1 is a great one with Patrick Mahomes as a dog. And I agree with you. I think they win this game outright. I think it's a little bit on the lower scoring side. Like everyone looks at the 2 quarterbacks, and they have obviously Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, 2 great AFC quarterbacks going at it. Should be a fun one. But I don't think it gets crazy shootout, maybe like 24-20, somewhere in that range, 23-20. But at the end of the day, I don't know how you don't go with the Chiefs and their experience. It feels like, and I was totally wrong last week going with Buffalo. I thought Buffalo was the hot team. I'm curious to see Kansas City on the road. They haven't really looked right this year, but it doesn't seem to matter what happens in the regular season. Once it gets to the playoffs, it's like the light switch goes on. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelsey, the big 3, they figure out a way to get it done. I think they figure out a way to get it done again in Baltimore on the road, and they're headed back to the Super Bowl, I think. Let's go to the NFC game between the 49ers and Detroit Lions. The 49ers are favored by 7.5 points. What's your play in this one?
Oh, it's up to 7.5 now? I thought it was 7.
Yeah, 7.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking the Lions. I think it's way too many points. They've been in basically every game this year except for that Ravens game I mentioned. They're just a tough team, hard-nosed team. I think Brock Purdy, I just don't know if I trust him laying that many points. Before the year, Chiefs Lions was my Super Bowl pick, so I'm going to brag about that right now, even though I'm sure they'll both lose on Sunday. But I think it can happen. Two road underdogs. It's not like the Niners are. I mean, the Niners are dominant at times, but with Purdy, I don't think Purdy's a game manager. I think that's not fair. I think he's a very good quarterback, but he's not Mahomes. So it's not like the Lions can't go in there and win this game. I think the biggest thing with this game is Deebo Samuel, his status, shoulder injury, forced out of last week's win over the Packers. If he doesn't play, that's a big thing. The Niners started 5-0, and then when he left that game against the Browns, that game and the next two games he missed, they went 0-3. So they lost 3 in a row without him, and it's not a coincidence. He's a game-changing type of player. I just don't know if I trust the Niners laying this many points. I think they win the game. I got 28-25 Niners, but I'm 50-50 on it. I could totally see the Lions winning. They got something going on, a little mojo here. The key is, can Goff not make some mistakes on the road? He's better in the dome. I just don't know if Purdy. The reason I like the Niners to win is because last week they probably shouldn't have won that game. I mean, the Packers dropped the pick 6. They outplayed them for most of the game. So I feel like the Niners got their bad game out of the way. But I think in a close game, like Kyle Shanahan, my neighbor's a big 49ers fan, and he's nervous about Shanahan's coaching, in-game coaching. He's too conservative, and I agree. I think that Dan Campbell's aggressiveness could be a difference here going forward on fourth down. Let's say it's like a tie game. Let's say it's 20-20 in the fourth quarter, 4th and 2 at midfield. Most coaches will might punt. Maybe Campbell goes for it. They win the game. So I think that could come into play here. The Lions got nothing to lose, looking to make their first Super Bowl ever. They never made it to the Super Bowl. 49ers, this is their 3rd straight NFC Championship game. They lost the last 2, but this game's at home. So I feel like that's another reason to think they'll finally, get there. So everything's there for them. So I think they find a way, but I think it's going to be a very, very close game. So I think 7.5 is way too many points. So I'll take the Lions to cover and maybe win, but I'll take the Niners 28-25.
All right. I am going to take the 49ers laying the 7.5 points. It's a big number. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but there's a few reasons why I'm going this direction. Something that you brought up that I think is important here is it feels like they got their bad game out of the way. You're 100% right. The Packers should have won that game, and they were driving at the end. Jordan Love throws, the interception. Looked like Brett Favre with Minnesota throwing that. Interception over the middle of the field. But the Lions offensive line is pretty banged up right now. Left guard Jonah Jackson probably not going to go. Frank Ragnow is hurt there, stud center. There's a chance that he plays, but it seems like that's still up in the air. I think that's going to play a really big factor against the 49ers defensive line, which is really, really strong. And I think that's an avenue that they could potentially exploit in this one. I hear you on the more aggressive style from Dan Campbell, and I like that. I think that's how you have to coach in today's NFL. But I think that there's a few factors with them playing not in the dome, playing on the road this time, and for the 49ers to be hosting the game this year, I think makes a big difference. I think they got their bad game out of the way, and to me, it feels like their year. I know you can make the case for the Lions, like things going right. They had a couple of nice big playoff wins. That at home with the building going absolutely nuts. I'm happy for them. The Lions, they haven't had a lot of success in their history, but I think it ends here on the road in San Francisco. I'm going to take the 49ers 30-20, a 10-point win for them at home to go to the Super Bowl.
All right, should be a good game.
Should be a fun weekend. Should be a good one. So both Joe and I on the Chiefs plus 3.5, and I'm going to go with the 49ers minus 7.5, and Joe is going with the Lions plus 7.5 on the NFC side. Joe, enjoy the games, and we'll talk again for the Super Bowl.
All right, Matt. Great job. Thanks.